Welcome back to Politics and Preppers podcast. And I've got my flag at half-mast, wearing my black strap on my shirt, on my arm. I'm in mourning. I know that freedom is dead and socialism has taken over this country. I just can't believe it. Today I'm in a little bit better mood, but I've kind of been moping around all week. This really sucks. God. I can't believe there's that many people that are so freaking stupid. Excuse me.
Well, there's some areas of the country that had over 100% of the people voted for Obama. Saw that on Drudge tonight.
Yeah, well, that shows you fraud right there.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
If it turns out that he said, let the ambassador die and everybody else over there, and they can prove it, they still won't do anything about it. I bet he could shoot his wife and kids in the middle of 100 people, and they say, well, hell, it's Obama. She must have deserved it. They must have done something terrible. Let him go. Anyway, I haven't even wanted to talk about politics this week. And I've listened to a little bit of what was going on. I did hear that he's already making moves like the next day after the election to go after our guns.
Right.
And, it doesn't make sense to me. I really didn't think he'd win this time. I really thought that people in this country were smarter than that. I thought they had learned. Now, one of two things. Either there was massive fraud, which I was hearing about fraud during the early elections, or absentee voting. Right and left, they had machines all over the damn place where, you see the little place where it says Obama or Romney, and the border around it, which is actually invisible, or on the touch screen, was very small on Romney's, which you had to be really careful about. Oh, looks like Skippy's here. You had to be very careful about making sure you got it touched right, because Obama's was real wide, and it would come right down to the border of the other one. Where it was really easy to hit Obama. So I'm sure there was a bunch of that going on. Let me see if I can get Mike in here. He might be calling in from work. I think he said something about that.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay. How you doing there?
Okay. I'm hard at work.
Are you? Do you have your flag at half-mast? Do you have your flag at half-mast and your mourning badge on?
Yeah, figuratively speaking, I do.
Oh, anyway. Go ahead.
Life goes on.
Yeah. Life goes on, but it's going to suck under socialism.
And it'll go on.
And when everything... do what?
It'll go on in some other country.
Yeah. Maybe freedom will survive someplace else.
The country of Texas.
We got too many people from California and up north that have moved here. I don't know if we could succeed. Or secede.
I would chase them out.
That'd be nice. I would be happy. And I would put Skippy in for a free pass to come to Texas. But I don't know, if that was your wife making those comments, I don't know if you could bring her.
She'll go wherever I go.
She might not come with you if she comes to a place like this.
She's going to have to learn how to cook if she
We don't allow women in Texas that can't cook.
If the government gives you all the food, I guess you don't need to cook. But
yeah, but if you come to Texas, we secede. You won't.
Yeah,
government won't be. Yeah. But
we'll have to learn how to stand in line, I guess.
There's so much of that shit going on here too. Texas isn't much better than a lot of states. far as that goes. Well, I forgot where I was when you came in, so I know I was talking about, I'd been kind of depressed this week, and I'm feeling a little bit better today, and hadn't really talked or listened to much politics. Oh, I think we were going towards the gun control. He's already going after guns, or starting to make moves and steps to, what treaty was that? You remember what treaty that is, Mark? Al?
Yeah, it's a UN Small Arms Agreement.
Yeah. Your connection is different tonight.
Mine is one.
Sounds kind of muffled. But anyway, I can still hear you fine now, so that's all right.
How is it that he can say he wants to support that UN treaty, but he doesn't want to infringe upon states' gun rights? It seems kind of stupid to say those two things in the same sentence.
Well, what makes sense with any of this?
When has he said he didn't want to do that? I've only heard him say that he wanted to do away with handguns and stuff.
Maybe I read an interpretation by someone, and I don't know if I read the exact.
That could be. They'll say anything just to make it sound better.
Yeah, right.
If he screws up, they just change the words and repeated it differently so it sounds better, and say they're quoting him.
Well, I know the other day on the Alex Jones show, I think it was on Thursday, he had people calling in that was saying, Obama don't want to take your guns, and he was going through and showing all the times he had said that, they wanted to, well, even his attorney general was saying that too, that they wanted to create a no-gun list, just like if you were on the no-fly list, you would also be on the no-gun list.
Yep.
And stuff like that. And we already know there's upwards of 200,000 people a year that are falsely placed on the no-fly list. And that's, they get that thing in, then we would see those numbers go up, and they'd be putting you on the no-gun list for,
Well, I wouldn't doubt that he gets anything he wants now, because if he doesn't get it through Congress, he'll just make it happen anyway.
Yeah, I don't think that I think they're going to do the gun stuff stealthy. That it's going to be a gradual. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like.
Well, unless they want a war with this, they got to do it slow.
That's why I think they'll do it slow, and they'll start. They'll start just gradually. With like a no gun list, and they'll gradually put people on the no gun list, and.
Well, they've been for years, right?
Huh?
They've been doing it for years, slowly, just making it difficult and restricting certain.
Yeah. Yeah, especially up in back in the north, Chicago and New York City and places like that, you can't have handguns. There was that Supreme Court ruling though, in what was that, a year or two ago? I can't remember when it was, but where the Washington D.C. You couldn't have a gun, and I think they couldn't even have a rifle or anything in Washington. You couldn't have any kind of gun in Washington D.C. and they got that law throughout. But I'm not sure. I think in Chicago and New York you can't have a handgun. I think you can have rifles, but you can't have a handgun. But yet they have some of the highest murder rate with handguns.
Yeah.
Well, we know it's not. The real reasons for control is not for safety.
No.
They can't get control if too many people have guns.
It's an illusion of safety.
And if it was for safety, then we'd all have guns.
Right.
Did you guys see my post on Facebook that?
I don't know where this country's going. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was wondering if you read that post about the water filter. And then me and my brother got my brother got into a big discussion about gun control somehow off of the water filter. But the scary thing is my brother's a lawyer, so he's going to be a lawyer. He just took the bar, but it's scary that he can just kind of brush off civil rights as you'd think that. I thought he would be all for protecting rights, which he is. He says, but. You can't say you're for rights. And
so that's who those comments were. That wasn't your wife making. For some reason, I was thinking your wife was on there making comments. Was that your brother?
My brother, yeah, my younger brother.
Okay. What's his name?
Christian.
First name?
Christian.
Okay, I think I was thinking it was your wife because of the name.
I just think I think these law schools and stuff brainwash these guys into being more liberal.
Well, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, they do. Well, ever since they started doing precedent law, where they don't go back to the Constitution for all their rulings and debates or arguments. They just follow precedent law. Well, if you get one bad ruling, then that becomes the precedent, and then next thing you know, everything's based on that bad ruling that was, happened, 25 years ago or whatever.
It's like case law, right? Basically, or like
the case. That's what I meant. I'm sorry, case law. Yeah, they everything's done on case law, and they just focus on that. They don't focus on the Constitution like they should on a lot of stuff. They just focus on case law. And
yeah, but he thought the principle of if things get bad enough, it made sense to him that the government would go ahead and take guns as a means of making it safer. But that's not anything to do with law. That's
that and the comment about the Constitution. That's why I was talking about your wife. I thought that was your wife over there making that. My condolences on having a brother like that.
He's a good guy, I think. And I think as you have kids and you go through different things and you get a different perspective on things. Whenever you're young and all you had was 6-7 years of college, and I like the guy. He's a good guy.
Well, I don't know where I got my conservatism, because my dad and I never talked about politics because he was in the military, and the placement he was in, he just got to the point where he never talked about Korea, Vietnam, the D.C. duties up there, the presidential duties down here, none of that. So we never, even talked about it. Of course, I'm sure I picked up some of it on comments made here and there,
Yeah, we never talked about it either in our house. We never talked about politics or anything like that, or race or.
The other day, though, when I stopped by, I took him some cough medicine, some apple pie cough medicine.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
For those days, when he's at the deer lease and has a little congestion. And
very healing.
I took that, and it mellows out after a couple of days of sitting there. Oh, man, that stuff is good. But I'll come back to it. But anyway, I went over there to visit for a few minutes and pick up a rifle that shoots a little bit further than what I have here. And he goes, well, what do you feel about the election? Because I don't even want to talk about it. He goes, I understand that. So we just stopped talking. We didn't talk anymore about that. But my Jim, the guy that's on the show every once in a while, he stopped by. And he brought me some more reloading stuff. And he had a little cough, a little hacking going, so I gave him a little bit of it. And he goes, whew. You can see him kind of turn a little red there for a minute. He goes, God dang, that's smooth. And he's trying to catch his breath and hands it back to me. He goes, oh, wait a minute. I think I need a better dose of that. He got 3 hits up before I had to put the damn thing away. And then I gave him the really strong stuff, because that I think was around 110 or so. I gave him some of the 140 that's just straight, and it aged a few days, but that woke him up.
He's path to recovery.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes you just need a little higher dosage.
So you picked up another rifle, huh?
Yep. Yeah, this one is also another one that's not on the records.
What caliber?
.243.
Ooh. Scope?
Yep. This is my gun from years ago that I stopped using when I stopped hunting, but I maybe go and start hunting again. Looks like we got West Texas back. That place I've talked about. We go to West Texas. Used to be when we were hunting and everything back when we were kids. His lawyer cousin started buying that whole damn area up. Anytime somebody was late on their taxes, and when they went up for auction, he'd pick them up, and for a while they were going pretty good. So he got a big chunk of the whole place back. There were several ranches that we all kind of had an agreement. We all could go on the other ranches as long as we closed the gates and behaved ourselves. And we all had a place where you can go and put your tag up and say, I'm here, so they know where you're at, so they don't come try to hunt the same area. Well, anyway, he got a big chunk of that back, not the whole place, but a big chunk. And that's the one that's going to take so dang long to get to. But it is a good place to go if you can get there. But it looks like we're going to maybe be going hunting, so I'm going to... Anyway, I had this rifle from way back then, and it's been floated and bedded, and it's a very accurate gun. So I'm going to load up some ammo. I'm going to sit there and make some very accurate rounds for it. Put those away. Something a little bit more accurate than I need for deer hunting. I don't shoot more than 400 yards. I don't even think I could shoot 400 yards anyway without a lot of practice. Back then I could fairly easily. Anything past that, because I was deer hunting, and I don't even take a shot at a deer past 400 yards in any conditions. I just didn't feel comfortable with being accurate enough, and I don't like wounding them, so I don't think I can shoot that far anyway, but anymore, unless I go out and practice, maybe I can. I haven't shot that far since I was blinded in one eye, so I don't know. I can still shoot pretty good, but that far, that's a long ways. Hell, you can hardly see a deer from that distance unless you got a scope or some binoculars on them.
Are you still blind in one eye?
Yeah, I've been blind in one eye since my mid-20s.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, not many people do. I don't talk about it much. Except for I have talked about shooting right-handed pistol and left-handed rifle. Do you remember that?
No. Well,
maybe
I would have probably thought about it before if I knew you only had vision on one eye.
So how'd you lose your sight in that eye?
Well, I used to work for the cable TV company, and some of these buildings, they would, instead of going through the upstairs attics, they may not have had enough room or something, and we'd, instead of going through there and dropping the wires into the apartment buildings, we would put them around the outside and put these big pieces of molding over it. And then with these clamps, you'd screw them in. Well, my partner that was up on the ladder had picked up the wrong screws, and when you turned the drill on, they were so long they just kind of go unbalanced and fly off. Well, I was in the wrong place looking up at the wrong time.
Oh, man.
Wow.
But that was each operation. Let's see, the first operation was successful, and we didn't know if I was going to keep my eye or not, but that was successful, so I kept my eye. And then they had to, it poked me kind of off-center, but close to the center, but a little off-center. And they had to sew that up, replace take all the busted up lens inside, take it out, sew it back up, inject some more fluid in there to fill the eye back up. And then 9 months later, because you don't have hardly any blood circulation in that part of the eye, towards the outside where the white is, you have a lot of blood circulation, but closer in, you don't. And anyway, so 9 months later, they went back in and they cut a circle off center, turned the whole circle around to move that scar tissue out of the center of my eye so I wouldn't be looking through scar tissue. 9 months later, they came back and did some cleaning up and some other smaller little surgeries to adjust things a little bit. So you can tell it was a long recovery.
Yeah.
But after the first surgery, I never could get where I could see the angles very good at pool anymore, so I gave up pool. But I did practice my ass off on shooting. I go every day and shoot anywhere from 500 rounds to 1,000 rounds of 10-22 with my 10-22, and another 100 rounds or so with my pistol. It was a 22 also. So, and then I just built up to bigger guns. But I can still shoot pretty good. So if any of you boneheads out there goes hit the fan, you come to my house, you're in trouble.
Don't tell them which eye is messed up, because they want to sneak up on that side. So just don't let that
No,
happen.
I still got peripheral. I don't know, it's not totally blind. It's I can't focus with it.
Oh,
I got
okay. So you still got like depth perception, somewhat, things like that.
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
And I've learned how to adjust my depth perception over time by practicing and there's different things, exercises you can do to practice depth perception.
That almost might be harder with partial vision. I don't know. That seems kind of weird. You know what I mean?
Well,
if one eye is really blurry or something, that would kind of mess you up.
I don't even notice it anymore.
No.
It does. It takes a while to get used to it, but after a while, like I could go get it fixed right now. They could
really?
put it inside, and then they could do some other stuff to the outside, and they could probably get me to pretty good eyesight. But I went through 3 surgeries, and each surgery was a chance of losing my eye because of complications. And after that, they said I couldn't have any other surgeries for quite a few more years because the technology was new at the time, and they didn't know what the long-term effects would be. And I was too young, so they didn't want me to have it. And then when it got to the point where I could have it, I didn't want to because I adjusted to it. I didn't want to take a chance on losing my eye. So, but if something happens to my other eye, I can go in and get the surgery. And at least I'll still have one eye that's, really pretty good because they said they could get it back to close to 20/20, which is not bad. They've come a long ways with some of the stuff they can do.
That's amazing how the brain can compensate for stuff like that.
It is.
After a while,
it really is. That's
corrects itself.
Kind of. That's why I was kind of been interested in your brain training stuff because from my own history, I know what you can do and what the brain can do and what the body can do to adjust to different situations and different aspects of things that can happen to your body. And if you can do that, actually going out and doing, there's got to be a lot of other things that your brain can do with the right kind of training. And
yeah, because I was a couple of interviews.
Like you're talking about doing, so.
Yeah, with this neurologist. He's pretty famous. I can't think of his name. But he does work with people who have brain injuries, and they basically they've been learning the brain, how the brain functions by looking at cases where people have certain injuries. So people have very kind of localized injuries to the brain which sever different communication paths.
Mm-hmm.
So as they have like one injury and they see like this particular part of the brain has been injured, and they start to test them and see what kind of effects it has on them. That's how they learn a lot about the brain. Just by studying all these different injuries and understanding. Like you could have certain injuries where your brain, when you see someone, there's like a pathway from your eyes to the brain that interpret what you're seeing. But then from there, it goes to different parts of the brain that like pertain to emotions and things like that. So there's people that had injuries to like this one specific spot that connected their emotions to their vision. So they would see like their mother, and they would say, "Oh, that lady looks like my mother," but they would totally believe it wasn't their mother because they had no emotional reaction. But they would swear that person looked exactly like their mother. So it was kind of weird stuff like that. But then they could talk to their mother, and their auditory emotional feedback worked. So they could say, "Oh, Mom, how you doing?" But then when they see her, they
could recognize it by her voice, but not by seeing her.
Yeah, because there's a certain specific pathway that got damaged that cut that reaction off, so they had no connection. So all kinds of crazy stuff like that. It's kind of interesting to understand how the brain works, and then how
it's amazing, interesting how complicated it is, and how little things can affect it.
Yeah.
And then how it can actually teach itself how to compensate for some of these things.
Oh yeah, some of the injuries, like people lose physically get part of their brain removed, and the brain just kind of relearns through different pathways and stuff. It's pretty amazing. And he was teaching people with phantom limb, like how to get rid of, like some people have real bad pain associated with their phantom limb, like if they lose their arm or something. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I know it. I know it well.
You know how to fix it? Like there's okay, they had like a theorist would use. So it was the same kind of concept. Like these people, the brain thinks that there's an arm there because whenever the last feelings it had, it was paralyzed, and it's like they describe it, I guess, as like their fist was clenched so hard that it was like constant pain, but they couldn't release their fist, you know.
Yeah.
And then they tricked their brain with a mirror so it looked like they could see their phantom limb, and they could see their hand opening up. As soon as they would open up their hand, that sends the visual signal to the brain saying, "Oh, okay, my left arm, the hand is open now," and it relaxes. Crazy. It's just like simple solution.
That sounds familiar, but I don't know if I've heard of that or not. But that's not what they did with me.
Oh.
Have you ever seen a picture of my hand?
No.
Okay, well, you're not going to. No, you probably, if you watched my gun video, you saw my hand. You just probably didn't notice it.
No, I didn't notice
it. Tip of my finger, I got one finger that's kind of funky looking because when they put it back together, it doesn't look right.
Oh, okay.
And then the tip of one is gone from the first joint. Oh. And recovering from that, I kept getting. Well, I had two things. One was it was very sensitive because nerves that weren't supposed to be at the tip of my finger were now at the tip of my finger.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And the other was thinking it was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, just sit whenever you're sitting down, just take that finger and tap it on something hard like a table.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, it's going to hurt a little bit, but as you go, you'll be able to tap harder and harder, and it'll hurt less and less. And he said, by the time that's done, that phantom pain should go away too, and it did.
Hmm.
So, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess in my case, it was just getting the nerves retrained.
Yeah.
You know.
So how'd you lose your finger?
A machine, a chain, and not a chainsaw, but a chain, a drive chain, and a machine. I had a rag in one hand, and I think somebody opened the door. It was on a real windy day, and we had these line of machines that had the back open, and I'd been cleaning it and replacing some of the parts, and I put it all back together. And there's like a part of the frame that I had my hands sitting on, but I had a rag that I'd just wiped my hands with. And about 6 inches away was the back of that chain. Well, normally I'd have been okay, but I think somebody opened the door. It all happened so fast, I don't really know, but I think what it did is when they opened that door, that wind came right through there, because that wind would barrel through there in the winter, and if the wind was blowing pretty hard. And I think what it did is it picked up the bottom of that paper towel, or not paper. Well, it was a paper towel, but it was like a real strong one, you know, with fibers in it.
Like one of the ones they use in the shop, yeah.
Yeah, and it blew up the bottom of it. It got caught in the chain, but it all happened so fast I couldn't even let go, and it pulled 2 fingers in with it.
Oh man!
But it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt until the doctor started poking around at it an hour later.
Yeah.
That and after they, you know, stitched it up and started putting shit together.
Man, you give me
anyway,
all these stories, man. Freaking me out.
Yeah, well, I always joked that I cut my finger off so I could get it into the trigger faster. You never heard me joke about that?
Oh, no. Yeah, you got it.
I guess we haven't talked too much about guns. Yeah, well, maybe I'll tell you the rest of things that have happened to me over the years sooner or later.
You're just a pack of physical deformities.
Well, I had one guy, I was sitting there, this is a different job, this is on a different hand, I was sitting there, it's in the shop in the back, and the table saw, and I was cutting some wood to build a frame for something. I don't remember what it was. But he walks in the back door and pushes me. Just kind of real hard, you know, slap on the back type thing. Well, it pushed my finger into the saw.
Oh, jeez.
And split it right down the middle. They fixed that where you can't even hardly tell.
Man.
And it split that down from the tip all the way down to the first joint and broke the bone and everything. But they put that all back together. And that one did pretty well. But both times I had pins, these long pins running through the finger to help hold the bones together while they were healing. And I used to love driving my wife crazy because after a while, you know how an injury, it starts to itch after it starts to heal? Well, it would get this deep itch, real deep down in there. And after it heals enough, those pins would start to come a little loose, so I'd start just turning it. And it would squeak.
Oh, okay.
It would drive my wife nuts, but man, it felt good. It was like, you ever had one of those itches you can't scratch and finally you get to it?
Deep scratch there, man.
Yeah, it's a deep one. Man, it felt good. You ever seen a dog when you scratch it, it pats it, its leg goes crazy? It felt that good.
Man, it sounds like you're a dangerous person to work around.
Well, I didn't do any of this to me. It's other people that did it to me.
So what did the guy that slapped you on the back, what did he say?
He quit. He never came back.
Oh, yeah. I was afraid you'd shoot him.
Well, I didn't like him much, and I would have been tempted to, but he left the next day before. He never came back. And they said, well, that's good because we're going to fire his ass anyway.
Yeah.
Because it was stupid.
If he's going to cut you, cut your trigger finger. That makes sense.
What?
If he's going to cut you, take out your finger.
Yeah, but that was the other. That wasn't my trigger finger. That was my center finger.
Probably not the smartest guy in the world.
No, well.
And.
Anyway, yeah, I don't think he did it on purpose or anything. I think he was just being careless. And I was mad at him for a little while, but even though I didn't like him, I don't think he, meant to hurt me. So I let it go.
Hey, to change gears a little. What did you guys think of it? Was that straw? Straw in that picture I posted. Was that the same one we talked about before? The life straw?
Yeah, my dad has one.
Okay, I thought that might have been the one that we had talked about.
Yeah, he got it off of Amazon. It's called Life Straw, and definitely works. Definitely works.
Well, that brings us to the prepping stuff, because I was going to go there pretty soon anyway. And that reminds me, let me get my pen out. Al, you got a filter a while back you've been talking about? Water filter. Was it one of those ones, like a ceramic filter, or was it something else?
Yeah, it's a ceramic.
The ceramic ones where you put it in the bottom of a 5-gallon bucket and then put it on the top? Okay.
Yep.
That's what I was checking in on that the other day, because I thought that's what you'd been talking about. And I'm gonna order one, because it looks like I'm gonna have 2 55-gallon drums, food grade coming in.
Yeah, the Cheaper Than Dirt has 2 different ones. They've got the candlestick one for I think it's around $18. Then they have what do they call it? A monolith. It's more like a mushroom.
I've seen both of them.
Yeah, and that one's $29, but it comes with a spigot, and the way they say to drill, drill like an inch hole in the bottom of a bucket and then through the top of a lid, through the lid, and then you put the lid on the bottom and then put the nut on it, and then you pass the lid onto the bottom bucket, so it's all one unit then. And then you put the spigot in the bottom bucket. And some people get multiple filters, and they'll put multiple filters in the bottom. In other words, so it makes the flow faster.
Yeah, well, I don't see any need to go fast. I was thinking about getting a couple. One for, 20-something thousand gallons out of one?
I think it was 27,000.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's a lot of water. And I don't really think I need one if I get to stay home, because our well is so clean. But I'm going to get one anyway, just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to get another one for just in case.
And that's what I was thinking too. Say the situation is I get to stay here, and I have some neighbors here that I kind of like, so I'll probably try to help them out. And I might need to help supply them with some water. I won't have enough food to supply them, but I might be able to help them with some water.
Yeah.
And at least I can help with something. And 20-something thousand gallons is a lot of water. But if it's a long-term situation, it's not enough.
Also, one of those gallon bottle of bleaches, or not a gallon, it's a half gallon. I think that's how it comes. It'll do like 2,700.
Yeah, they're about the same.
Yeah.
So you get one filter, one bleach, and it comes out about equal. When your bleach is gone, your filter's about gone.
You know what? I said 27,000. It's probably 2,700 gallons of water.
Well, I was thinking 27,000.
Well, I could be wrong, but
I could be too. Maybe I heard you say it, and it just stuck in my head.
Yeah.
But I was thinking it was, up there too, like that.
It's a lot of water, though.
But I also, with that topic going, also found that, for long-term water storage, the rates that we've been talking about for how much bleach to use.
Eight drops per gallon? Or per
6 drops, 8 drops. It just depends. It depends. If you're getting it out of the tap, then you don't need as much.
No.
So it kind of depends on your and some places use more chlorine than others. So it really just kind of depends. But like if you're going to get it out of a well, like I have, then you got to go to more the 6 or 8, whatever it is. I bet 6 would do it. 8's probably just a little bit better, and you could probably go a little bit higher, but you might be able to taste it more. Then it wouldn't hurt you unless you went too high. But if you're going to get a bunch and go long-term storage ahead of time, you need to go up your dosage quite a bit because it's going to fade out over time. And
well, my philosophy on that, I've started buying these 32. You can get 32-gallon plastic cans at Home Depot that's got a pretty good lid, and you can fill those up with water. My deal was just fill them up with water. It's it's just potable water at that point, and then you filter it. If it comes down to drinking it, you would run it through the filter and then treat it.
Well, yeah, and I can understand that, but my thing is, I approach it a little bit different way. If I'm going to put 100 gallons away or 110, whatever I end up with, I'm going to go ahead and treat it for long-term storage so that I don't even have to think about it again. When I get to it, if I need to, and I'll probably filter it anyway because it's been sitting there for a long time, and who knows if, maybe I didn't do it right or if there was a little bit of a leak or something where air got into it, I'll go ahead and filter it.
Right.
But, the amount of what bleach costs, why not go ahead and do a little bit extra?
Right. Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah. So, either way is okay. I'm not, you're not saying I'm wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just different people have different approaches. And that's one of the things I like to get out there to people, and I try on the website all the time, is there is a lot of information. I think I said this last week. There's a lot of information, but there's a lot of different scenarios. So when you go find a scenario, try to take the information from it that fits your situation and figure out what works best for you. Don't just stop trying to figure out one scenario and go find out lots of different scenarios, find all the little tips and tricks that fit your situation or what you think your situation is going to be, and then, build from there.
Yeah. Well, see, the storage containers I've got aren't food grade, so I definitely will have to filter them.
Well, down here, not too far away, and they were supposed to check on it for me yesterday. There's a sewage plant here, and some of these sewage plants use disposable plastic barrels that they have their bleach in. So some of them use ones that get traded back in, and they're reusable, but some of them have disposable ones. And I think I got connections down there, so I think I'm going to ask them to get some, and I'll distribute that to a couple of people I know that are looking for some. But I got two at work that I think they're going to give me. That we do, we treat some of the water that we use for irrigation. We treat it with bleach, and well, we recycle water out of the tanks. Almost the whole property is made to drain the water from the runoff back into the 3 big tanks that we have there, like big ponds.
Right.
So we reuse a lot of it. So it gets a lot of material in it from the ground runoff. It gets a lot of fertilizers in it. So it's real easy for algae and stuff to grow in it. So we treat it with bleach to kill that down. Plus the pathogens that we're trying to kill. There's pathogens that are on the plants that are in the roots that can kill plants if it gets to a certain point. And by treating with bleach, it kills most of that. So we're not taking one area that maybe has a problem that we're treating for a root rot, say, and then spreading it through the water to the other side of the place.
Right.
So anyway, so we go through a lot of that, but those are reusable. But one of the chemicals that we use, which is just I can't remember what oil it is. It's one of the bean oils. And it comes in food grade containers, and we use that. If you don't know this, there are oils that will mix with water, and this is one of them. But anyway, we use that to put in water, and you spray plants down, and it'll kill like a scale on plants, which is a little insect. And it's only like a 4-hour reentry. It dries. It's real safe type of stuff. In fact, you don't even have to have a reentry on it, but we do. But anyway, that's a food grade barrel, so I think they're going to let me have those. But we only go through about one of those a year, and that's a 55-gallon drum.
Yeah.
All right, way back. Mike, you still there?
Yep.
Okay. It got quiet over there.
I muted it because I'm working too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got
at least the water thing, the water containers I'm talking about are, you can get them like at Lowe's.
Yeah.
They're 32-gallon. They're basically big plastic trash cans is really what they are. And they got a pretty decent lid, and they'll snap on. And 32 gallons, they're $15 for these things. And you fill them with water, put the lid on there, maybe put some duct tape around there. And then what I'm doing is taking big old contractor trash bag and then just putting it over it as like a curtain over, or just an apron over it or whatever, just to, keep
dust and everything out.
Dust and everything from settling on top of the lid and stuff, so that whenever you do get to it, you take that off and the lid's still, pristine. And I don't know, that's just one method, but I definitely will need to filter that water because it's not in a food grade, container.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure over time you'll run across some food grades. You can maybe switch them out if you want to.
Yeah.
But getting started is the main thing, and water is most important. So do whatever you got to do. And that's not really directed toward you. That's directed toward anybody listening.
Oh yeah. That's
wherever you can start, even if it's not perfect. Just start, and start with water.
And also spend a little time looking at rain harvesting methods.
Yeah. Yep.
Off of your roof, because you can gather a lot of fresh water off your roof. You still want to filter it, you still want to treat it, but
well, I'm still looking into maybe starting a garden, even though I hate gardening, or at least get a place prepped for it where I've got it ready with good dirt, and I'm in the damn business. I might as well put one together and have it ready. And grow flowers in it or something for my wife for the temporary until we need it.
Yeah.
But I like strawberries too, so maybe I'll do strawberries or something. I don't know. I got plenty of room out there. She does want to buy she wanted a tree for the backyard because I cut this big pecan tree down a few years back, and she wanted another tree to go in there. And I was saying, well, sounded like you were interested on learning how to do canning with me. So she's kind of getting into some of this. She doesn't have any problems with, I don't think she wants me to go crazy like some of these people do, but, step by step. She doesn't mind having the extra food around. She doesn't mind, learning how to do some of this stuff. And we were talking about doing canning. So I said, well, how about an apple tree or something? Well, the only apple trees that really do very well this far south, because most apple trees need pretty good freeze time on them, is this one that's basically, it's a real hard apple, but it's basically for cooking. That one. But she said, well, how about a peach tree? Because we can grow some pretty decent varieties of peach tree down here. I like peaches. They flavor cough syrup pretty good too, or cough medicine.
Schnapps, apple schnapps, something like that.
Yeah, apple schnapps, apple brandy, peach brandy, all kinds of stuff. Strawberry brandy. Let's see. There were some other things I looked into this weekend. I think I've mentioned, fuel sources, alternative fuel sources and everything. So I did a little bit more looking around. And there was an engine that I mentioned a while, maybe it was last week. Maybe it was the other night we were just all talking, and then we weren't on the show. Which we ought to just freaking record a show when we're doing that crap, or just record it on the side and then I'll put it up as a show. We went through some pretty good stuff that night, and I think that would have made a pretty good show.
I thought you were recording it at first.
No, that was just a Skype call. Well, anyway, there's a little Stirling engine, and it's kind of like a steam engine, but it just runs off of heat on one end, and it looks much like a steam engine would look. Like the wheel, it's got a flywheel on it and a little piston and everything. There's different variations of it. But I was talking about, you could use a moonshine still to make alcohol. Now, alcohol in a wick, you could take like a little, one of the old lanterns, that you see in the Western movies, you can still get where you put the fuel in the bottom, and it's got the globe on it, the long, tall globe.
Uh-huh.
You could take something like that, or even a smaller one, and for that matter, you could probably take candles, and put that just under the tip of the one end, and it'll start driving this piston. And then you could use the flywheel to drive maybe a small generator. And I was thinking about the alternator, the permanent magnet alternators that I've been looking at. Might be. I'm doing this because I'm trying to figure out, how to do something on the cheap, where at least you'll have something, because solar energy, wind energy, and stuff kind of gets expensive when you start talking about wiring everything in and getting your batteries and all the different things you might go for. So why not get started a little bit cheaper? Well, something like that I was looking at. Well, what would that do? You could take a little permanent magnet alternator, and I think I'm going to get one and find out just how hard it is to turn. And you could do that. And you might even be able to just take an alternator from a car. But, of course, an alternator from a car needs a lot of RPMs to generate.
I've heard ceiling fan motors are pretty good.
Yeah, I've got one I worked on and modified it for for a permanent magnet thing. And it does work. I've got one.
Does it turn fairly easy?
No. Not when you add the permanent magnets to it. It doesn't turn real easy.
Oh, really? Because of the magnets?
Right. And you really need the magnets to generate enough power to do much with it.
Right.
And most ceiling fans are not made to be done outside, so you have to fill a cage to go around it. And then you've got to be careful about making sure that you got some air moving in there, because it'll get too hot and start destroying the coils in there, because the coils that generate the electricity, the copper coils, are usually fairly small wire, and most of the time they're covered with like a varnish to protect them. Well, it doesn't take much heat to start wearing that stuff out, and once the varnish is gone, you get a short between wires, and then it's no good. So you do have to look at some different options there, which you can do that. And there's stuff out there on eBay. I mean, not on eBay, but on YouTube to show you how to do that. So if somebody's interested, go ahead and look at it. It's not that hard to do. That is an option. But these permanent magnet alternators that have been modified, I like them. And you can start with a smaller one for around the $200 range. So that may be one. But the alternator, because I can do several different things with it. I can turn it into a wind generator. I can take like one of these Stirling engines, if the Stirling engine is strong enough to turn one, which I don't know until I get the permanent magnet alternator in and see how hard it is to turn. I know a car alternator is not hard to turn, but you have to have a fairly good amount of revolutions to make it generate enough voltage to charge a 12-volt battery. So the thing about the Stirling engine is it doesn't have much torque. So I got to find out about that. But I did run across one where they had a new design on a Stirling engine which had a lot of torque still. But it was still the simple same concept. It just built a little bit differently. And it looked like it had a pretty good amount of torque to it. But I couldn't find anybody selling it.
What kind of prices are you seeing on the ones you're seeing?
The Stirling engines?
Yeah.
Yeah, $100 range. And you can get them. The only ones I'm finding so far are fairly small. But even one of those small ones, if it's enough torque to turn that generator, you could use different things to power them. You could use, remember the mirrors we were talking about?
Right.
You could use those. And if you're talking about a long-term thing where you're just generating enough power to charge up your batteries, well, you could sit out there on a sunny day.
Right.
And just make sure it's focused on it for, an hour or two. You could then also, you could use it with, like I said, alcohol or different, some candles or, use your imagination. You can come up with some other stuff, I'm sure.
So it don't take much heat?
No. It doesn't take much heat to drive it.
What makes it drive it?
Same principle basically as a steam engine. Your piston builds up pressure on one side, all right, from the steam. Well, this just heats up the air and pushes the piston in. And between the differential of cold on one side or cooler air on one side of the piston and hot air on the other side of the piston and the momentum from the flywheel, keeps it moving.
So you have to crank it to get it going?
Yeah, just, give it a quick push. Most of the time, it's all it does.
So how long do you have to let it heat up before it starts working?
Oh, not very long. Not very long from the ones I've seen. Only problem is most of the ones I've seen, or all the ones I've seen so far, are fairly small. But there are also videos out there on how to make them yourself. So you could, ramp them up a little bit. I'm still going to try to find out where and how much and if anybody's selling that other one that I saw that's got pretty good torque to it, because it's still not very big, but it's a little bit bigger than most of the ones I've been seeing that you can buy easily. And if I can find somebody that is marketing it, which I don't know, maybe it's a prototype or something, they're not on the market yet. So maybe I'll work with something there. So there's you a couple ways to take a permanent magnet alternator and be able to generate electricity. You could also take your bicycle and don't use the stationary bikes, all right? So I know a lot of people are doing that, but to me that's a waste of time. Almost everybody that's got a bicycle these days seems to have one that's got, like a 10-speed or something on it. So you could take a bicycle, bring it inside, take the back tire off, get you a fan belt that's long enough to tie these two things together, and then instead of taking, like, when you turn, you can turn that generator a lot faster with gears than, the stationary bike's got one gear. For every turn you do, it does a turn, or, depending on what the side of the sprocket. But you could probably more efficiently go through the gear, find a gear that's comfortable, and you can probably drive that thing a lot faster and a lot easier. So there's another backup. And that's what I'm trying to do, try to get somebody in with that one. You can have several different ways to use it. It's only a couple $100 for the smaller one, and in that range. And then they have bigger ones, and there's a couple different companies out there. But I haven't dealt with any of them yet, so I'm not going to go promoting these companies. You can find them out there if you want to. There's lots of stuff on YouTube about it. So you would be looking at Stirling engines, permanent magnet alternators. So those two search terms y'all can use to do that if whoever's listening. And also with, does anybody have anything they want to add into that before I keep going?
Well, I'm liking that, what is it, Wind Blue or?
Yes, that was one of them.
That they got that, that turbo, the wind.
Yeah, and both of these sell, packages.
Yeah, well, it's like
independent,
Yeah, it's like $600 for that wind turbine. That includes a permanent magnet generator and
that's really not a bad price.
Not a bad price.
For a lot of people out there, $600 is a lot of money these days, though.
Well, yeah.
I'm trying to give them a place where if they're kind of handy with their hands, they can put some of these things together and have multiple ways of using it. Because there's also, there's with the PM magnet generator, you can build yourself a windmill with it, and
right.
you could take it off apart.
Well, what I was going to say, that the generator for that unit they sell separately for right around $300.
Right, and then there's another company that sells for $200, and they have smaller, and I think each one of them has several different grades of ones you can buy. sizes.
Right. And they're designed with they got to be pretty simple, easy to turn, because they're designed to work at 5 to 7 mile an hour wind.
Right.
Blowing the.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. But also these Stirling engines are, they don't have much torque. So, I don't want to go saying, hey, guys, go do this, and this is what you need to look at, and not know.
Right.
But I'm putting the idea out there and saying, go look. If anybody's interested, go look and put this stuff together in your mind and get the information and work it through.
Yeah.
Sure that what I'm thinking, jives with jives. I think I've thought it through pretty good. I just have to get the stuff to put it into motion and try it out. Plus, when I talk about solar energy, that's a lot of big investment. I wanted to do something some way where I didn't have to take so long for the next project to go through, and this way I can do it a little bit faster, and I can take it at steps and still be able to have some emergency power.
Right.
All right, now, to take that further, you can get generators out there to 2,500 watts or so, and you can get them bigger, you can get them smaller, and you can get them with 110, you can get them with 220, you can have them, a lot of them have a 12-volt power battery charger plug in it, so you can, charge up your banks of batteries with it. But you can get them, Tractor Supply has lots of different ones. I was looking at one I think I'm going to pick up here pretty soon. It was like just under $200, and I think it was in the 2,500 watt range, which you can power up, your freezer or something, your refrigerator, for the short-term emergencies. You can power up some lights.
It was less than $200.
Yeah.
That is. How many watts?
I think it was like 2,500.
Well, that'll run a refrigerator, won't it?
Yeah. Well, if you want, go over to their website and look around a little bit.
Yeah, I will. I've been over there. I didn't notice that. But that would be great for short term. It ran on gasoline, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. They have some that run on diesel, some that run on gas. Now, if you wanted something that runs 220, you're going to start to go into some bigger money.
Yeah. I don't need anything on 220.
Don't get you one of those damn two-strokes. If anybody even thinking about getting a two-stroke, they got to add oil to the gas. Forget it. Don't do.
Well, you're better off with a diesel one, because it's easier to, diesel you can store a lot longer than you can gasoline.
Well, either way, you got to put additives for long-term storage. But that reminds me, Jim has a buddy connected to who's into prepping a lot, who's got some connections. And he was saying there's a military version of one of the additives for long-term fuel storage. Now, I don't know if it's any good for diesel. I don't know that yet. But he said it was good for gas, and it's up to 7 years. That's not bad.
No.
How much does it cost? I don't know. Because you know how the government works. They'll pay 20 times what something is worth.
I didn't realize diesel was that big of an issue on storing.
Oh, yeah. Diesel starts to gather water, grow algae. In fact, I can't even tell you which one is easier to store, gas or diesel. Gas might be easier. I don't know.
Well, what if you put bleach in your diesel? That would keep anything from growing in it.
Yeah, you would think so. But it's already, you airtight it and get it, this is biomass in there. So if you airtight it, put it in the dark someplace, there's certain things that can grow in, bad things that can grow in stuff that's growing in dark places that are airtight. You might not want to go there. And I don't know what it would do to the fuel. It may eat up all the energy in the fuel to where you just don't have you really don't have diesel anymore. You just got some biomass sitting there.
Yeah.
I don't know much about that yet, so by what I've been checking on other things, I think that diesel would probably come under the same thing. So, anyway, you can get, and I'm going to tie this in here in a minute, you can get one of those fairly cheap, $200-300 range ought to get you something to get you through short-term stuff pretty easily. and it can still be used for long term, especially if if you get to a certain point where you got a pretty good battery bank set up and you've got the converters and stuff, then you can use your generator to help power them up. And I will tie that into my alternative sources of energy by methane digestion. We talked about that the other night, right?
Yep.
All right. You can take your scraps, preferably fruits and vegetables, and you can take those scraps, and there's different ways of doing it. There's several different designs. You can look up methane digestion on YouTube, and you can get a very good idea how to do this stuff. Nothing complicated. Unless you're a liberal moron, you probably can handle it. Just in case there's a liberal moron listening.
Yeah.
I don't like you people. Anyway, my anger is showing through right now.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like my damn rights taken away, and I'm sick and tired of paying for people too lazy to get off their ass and take care of themselves, and I'm tired of freaking politicians that are supposed to be working for us screwing us. I'm tired of it.
I see the methane method as a great way for cooking.
Mm-hmm. Now, cooking is cool, all right? But here's something tied into your generator. Let me go through the first basic design first, all right? You take I'll just say 55-gallon drum, all right? You cut the top off of it. If it has a top, maybe it's got the lid, you can remove it. Then you take a smaller barrel that will fit inside there. So you cut the bottom off the barrel that fits inside. All right, you put a valve on the top, and you can have your hose that runs the gas out. All right, so you fill up your bottom barrel, the bigger barrel, with your biomass, which is, your leftover scraps of fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. Add some water. Go find somebody who's got a horse or a cow and scrape up some of their manure, because you want the right kind of biomass growing in here. And the right kind, horses and cows already have that in their droppings, so that will guarantee you get the right kind started. All right? Get the wrong kind, you get the wrong stuff. It's not going to do you any good. So get that started. You put water in the barrel, the bottom barrel, with your biomass. And you take the smaller barrel and you put it on top. Start, open your valve so the air will release out of the barrel as you're pushing it down. All right, so your top barrel is all the way down inside your bottom barrel. Close the valve. It will start generating gas, and as it does,
well, you got to now you fill it full of water too.
Yeah. You fill after you got your that's part of your prep. You put your leftover scraps and your water together in that bottom barrel. All right. Now we're at where you've got your barrel all the way down inside the other one. You got your valve closed. So as it starts growing the gas expands, that center barrel will start lifting up. So you'll know it's working. Now, you can run your hose over and run a little stove. You could also run a Stirling engine off of that.
Yeah.
Okay? You could also use it for heating to a certain extent if you do it right. Be careful about that, though.
Well, you could run a little. What about running a little propane engine?
Mm-hmm. You could run a little propane engine off of it. You could run a propane stove off of it. You could run your barbecue grill off of it.
There's propane refrigerators.
Propane refrigerators, yes. There's air conditioners.
Have you found out anything on how much methane it generates? I mean,
no, I don't. Well, you can tell by the barrel there's gas in there, but I don't know how long it lasts, because under pressure, when you go by, it's like propane. All right, it's under pressure, so you got a lot of chemical in there. A lot of gas in there in a liquid form. So I don't know how to convert it over to how long a trash can or a barrel of a certain size would last. All right, but you can also expand that. There's plenty of videos out there. You can put 3 cans together and have this whole mass working together, where you put it in the first barrel. As it digests and does its thing. It works over into the second barrel, and you're producing your gas in here. This whole system would be like airtight, and it's building up some pressure in there. But by the time it gets done doing all its thing, it ends up, a lot of your biomass ends up in the third barrel. It's fairly clear liquid, and it's fertilizer.
Yeah, it's a clear liquid.
Yeah, and it's a great fertilizer. Plus, your original tank where you put your biomass in, when it's going to get to a certain point where you need to clean that out. Well, that stuff is great for your garden too. So you got fertilizers in two directions here, plus your gas. Now, if you take the one that I was describing originally, where you got the one barrel inside the other, and if you take weight and put on top of that barrel, now you're going to have to do something so that barrel won't tip over, because once it gets high enough, it'll tip over and you'll lose all your gas. So you have to build yourself a little frame or something to stop it from falling over. And you could take bricks or rocks, or you can take bungee cord or something and take it to where that top has pressure on it. That weight will put pressure on it. Bungee cords will put pressure on it. So you can drive pressurized gas through your hose. The propane, an adapter for natural gas or propane gas for your generator, which basically just goes over your air intake for your carburetor. All right. And now you're probably going to need a regulator to go with it, but regulators are not expensive. The same kind of regulator you use on your barbecue pit, your little propane tanks. Take one of those, you attach that. Now, there's plenty of videos out there. There's a couple of videos out there on how to do that. And I'm sure there's more information on some other websites. So, once again, go do your research. But anyway, now you can run your generator off your methane gas generator. So I've given y'all several different ways to have energy to get for your emergency stuff.
Right.
And I think this is the cheapest way to go to get something started. And that's kind of what I've been working on the last few days. And once you get that done, then you can start going into building maybe some wind generators, some solar power, your battery backups, the converters and the different electronics you're going to need, and just go from there. If that's what you want to do, and that's kind of what I'd like to do. I want to go that spectrum.
Well, not only that, even just based on what we know is going to happen with the cost of electricity over the next few years.
I am so glad you mentioned that.
Even if a prepping situation didn't come about, you're going to need. It's going to be a good idea to have a means of reducing your electricity.
Your tax burden.
Your tax burden or your
compensated
your energy cost anyway.
Because we know Obama wants to shut down the coal industry completely. He's already said so.
Yeah.
He's
already come right out and said it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He wants to shut them down. He's already shutting them down. He's got 1,000 of them on the list. The coal-powered electric plants.
Right.
We know he's got 1,000 on those on the list. You're not going to have a new mine because you're going to make it so hard for you to do it. You'll never make any money, so no company's going to go into it anymore. And the ones that are already there, he's going to drive them out of business. He'll find a way.
Yeah, unless the states start fighting back.
And I don't have any confidence that they're going to do so.
Hey,
I think we got a bunch of wimps up there, and at least in Texas. I don't think our governor will stand up to him. I think he's a what?
Hey, why wouldn't you have like an outhouse?
Mike, did you say something?
Yeah. You hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I have an outhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just capture the gas from that, or use that to feed your methane conversion or production. I might do that now. That sounds like a good idea.
You could also go tap into the sewer lines, drill a hole in the main cover, tap into it, and take it.
Ooh.
And I got one running down right through my alley back in the back. I'll tell you a story. What made me think about that? In the old days, back when I was a young punk, back before, they still had, the wheels were made out of rock back then. I was in Houston, and I don't remember if I was still living there, but I was a young boy, and I don't remember if I was living there or if it was one of our trips to visit to Grandma's. And it was either New Year's or 4th of July, and we had some firecrackers. And they had just redone the street. They put new asphalt down. Well, when they did the asphalt, and this is back in the day when the manhole covers had 2 holes in them. They go all the way through. And now they don't. They've even got them bolted down out here. There's no holes in them, and they're bolted down. But anyway, back then they had the holes in them. And when they asphalted, a lot of that asphalt got into those holes and plugged them all the way down, all the manhole covers all the way down the street. Well, I got this bright idea to carve out, chip out that hole and open up that manhole and drop a firecracker down there. Well, since these all were sealed, you know where I'm going with this?
It blew them all up.
It lifted them up off the street. It was so cool looking. Man, it scared the hell out of me, and I ran like hell and tried to hide. Like, I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
But it was all the methane gas ignited?
Yeah, it was so cool. It was boom, 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 all the way down the street. I wish I would have had a video camera. Anyway.
They didn't have iPhones back then?
That I got tapping into the sewer line. Huh?
They didn't have iPhones back then either, I guess.
No, they didn't. I think it was a party line. Because I know when we moved here, which was years later, we still had party lines here in Cibolo, and I was, 4th grade or so. So we didn't have cable TV. We had 3 stations if the president was on. Oh, my God, it ruined your night. Well, anyway, that's where I got that idea from, where you could tap into that. But so there's you some different ways. And, the wood generator, the wood gasifier I talked about, look it up on YouTube for those that you are listening. The wood gasifier is another way to create gas you could run a motor off of, and do different things with it. You could heat. I think that's a good place to start for people on a budget. Now, there's going to be people that have money to go out and buy big generators, but fuel storage is going to be outrageous. So look at some different options, come up with whatever fits your budget, whatever fits your plan, figure it out. There's lots of stuff out there. I'm going to be coming back to some of this stuff as I get through it, but I'm not going to put a time frame on it because I just don't know how long it's going to take me to start working through this. But what you were saying a while ago, Al, we know he's going to try to shut down the coal plants. We know he's trying to do everything he can to keep or drive up the gas prices higher, because that's the only way these green freaks are ever going to get their alternative energy stuff done, is by making everything else cost so much that you don't really have any choice. Right. And it tax the hell out of everything, no matter whether it's green or not. So it's, they don't care how much something costs, and they don't care if they ruin your life, and they don't, and if it drives you broke, well, then you just go on, on the government dole, and sooner or later the economy is coming to collapse, and we know it's going to happen anyway. As far as I'm concerned, we got no choice now. It's going to happen no matter what they do.
Right.
That's what they want. That's what they're going to get. And
I mean, he said all during his first campaign that the price of electricity would necessarily skyrocket. That was the exact word.
Yes, he did, because that's what he wants, and that's what his plan does. Well,
I mean, yourself, if you're, I don't know what your electric bill is, but if you spend $200 to $300 a month on electricity in an all-electric home, and it doubles, all of a sudden you're looking at, $400 to $600 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a $600 wind turbine system that can, it wouldn't take you long to get the return on your investment with, a couple of grand worth of, or even a $5,000 worth of stuff. It's not going to take you, be less than a year.
Oh, that reminds me, because when you were saying that, I still have some more stuff on this energy stuff here. As you were saying that, it reminded me that, the $600 isn't that bad of an investment for the wind generator, but then you got to get the stuff to convert it into your house.
Right? Yeah, your batteries and stuff, yeah.
All right. Well, I got a way that you don't have to do that.
Uh-oh.
But it's still not cheap, but it's cheaper than it was a couple of years ago when I first looked into it.
All right.
It's called a grid tie inverter, and you can get these and add to. Remember, I think I talked to you on the other night, and I didn't know the name of it, right? You can plug them right into your outlet. It's called a grid tie inverter. But you have to have a 24-volt system for these. So now I know that I'm going to go for a 24-volt system, right? Because I wasn't sure if I was going 12 or 24. Now I know I'm going 24. Because
you would still use 6-volt batteries.
You can still use 6-volt batteries, yeah, because you can make a 6-volt battery setup be 12 or 24 or 48 or
right.
Just as long as you go by double it, by sixes,
Right.
You keep going up.
Okay, so what does this do?
The grid tie inverter?
Yeah.
Right. It converts it to AC, also in a form that can be used in households so you don't screw up your computers or sensitive equipment. It'll just tie it right back into the grid. So what you're doing, let's go with the rent generator like we were talking about, the $600 one. All right. Go with that $600 one. Use a grid tie inverter. Make sure that your system is 24 volts. Plug it straight into your outlet. It supplements your usage, so it'll help drop it. Now, as you get a little bit more money, you can start adding your batteries, your battery backup. As you get a little bit more money, you can add your solar. As you get a little bit more money, maybe you go with the generator already, and you can use a generator in emergencies to help charge up your battery backups and everything. But you could add solar panels. You can add more of these grid tie inverters. You could add more wind generation, step by step, that goes along with whatever your financial situation dictates you can do. These, another couple $100, I think, a piece. They used to be a whole lot more.
What do they look like?
Just a little box. Look up grid tie inverter on YouTube. You'll find it, or on the internet. You'll find it.
So it takes 24 volts in and puts out 120 volts.
Yeah, it's just like your inverters that you use that we were talking about using for your batteries.
Right.
You've said you had one for your. Well, I'm sure you had one in your truck when you were driving.
Yeah, I did. Right. Well, it was just like an inverter. Yeah,
same basic idea, but it's a little bit. The inverters that you want for your house stuff, really, if you're going to have some of the electronics we have these days, need to have the sine wave a little bit better. It needs to be a little bit more quality so you won't damage some of your stuff. And this will do that. And your better inverters that you're going to need for the bigger systems that we were talking about previously would also need the inverters that give you a good sine wave.
Hey, Steve, don't you have to have a special meter, though, to send it back on the grid to get credit for it? With the power company? Or not?
I think the older ones just did it naturally, but I think a lot of the newer ones are greedy. They won't let you do it unless you probably have to have them put a special meter in or something.
Well, what about the smart meters?
That's what I think. In the smart meter will screw you. I think any of the newer technology will screw you on this. You'll have to make sure.
Didn't I hear someone got in trouble with their electric company because they're supposed to tell them they were doing that or something?
I don't know, but I suspect that you would.
Yeah.
Well, I know in Texas that they're required by law to buy your electricity.
Yeah, but I'm sure the way the laws go, you have to go through steps and make sure they know that you're. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I mean, as someone had heard that was doing it, and then the electric company said, I think they could do it. They just didn't go through the right channels. I think they may have had to pay a fee, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't checked up on that. Yeah. But I look at it this way. You could do what I'm talking about, and it would be a long time before you ever made that thing run backwards. All right? You have to have a big system for it.
Oh, so you're saying, well, yeah, but you'd want it to run backwards if you have excess power you're generating.
Right. If you're going to generate, but how long is it going to take you to get to the system, to a big enough system where you're going to run it backwards?
Yeah, I mean, what you're
talking about,
you're just talking about supplementing. You're talking about just using less repairs.
You start out with a smaller project, whatever fits your budget, and you add all these things slowly and supplement your energy.
Yeah, it's stuff like your refrigerator is always running, and you could just be kind of powering that stuff.
Yeah, basically it's just going to supplement whatever's in your house, whatever's running, whatever supply you're using, and it's going to supplement that. Now, once you get to a certain point, you're going to start generating enough to go backwards at certain times. Maybe you're going to have a nice windy day that's sunny, and you've got solar panels and wind going. Well, maybe once you get to a certain point, you're going to start running backwards part of the day. Well, you're going to need a meter that runs backwards because you're going to want them to buy it back from you. Because you want that money back in your pocket to help pay for all this shit. Even though when it's not running backwards, it's just supplementing and it's keeping your meter down. So you're still saving money. But if you get to the point where you can make one run backwards, or you're making enough energy that it should run backwards and it's not, then you better go figure it out, because you're throwing money away. And who wants to throw money away?
So you just have your generator.
And
you
just have your wind. Money you're saving.
Go ahead.
Just a minute. My wife was asking if I was still on the show. I kick her out of here when I'm on the show.
So you could have your windmill and just have it go directly into the outlet with the inverter?
Yes. If it's 24 volt or higher.
Most of them 24 volt?
I think most of them are, but you can get them 12 or 24. But you can get them higher than that too. You can probably get 48.
So how many of these do you need?
They
put out.
I'm sure they have different. I know they have different sizes. So the prices I can't tell you. The smaller one I was looking at was a couple $100, I think. $200 or $300 somewhere in there.
But they got to put out enough amperage or wattage to cover all the, whatever use in your house you have.
Well, like I said, you're just supplementing. It's not driving all your house. It's just putting some of it. It's just putting this back into the system.
Well, I know, but as you get big enough to where you're going to rely on this.
Well, you have to have a bunch of them then, but by then you may start getting a bigger unit.
Right.
Right. So this is just one of the cheaper, smaller versions I'm talking about to get started with, so you can take your steps. Once you get to a certain place, you might be wanting to get bigger inverters or tie them straight into your panel.
And you say you just plug these into an outlet?
Just plug them into the outlet.
So we just have to figure out how long it takes to generate like a kilowatt or something and convert it and see how long it would take to pay back the $600.
Yeah, and then you would have to figure out, well, every time you add a new windmill or a new solar panel, or, you'd have to start figuring all that out too. It just depends. But this is not totally just for payback. This is for emergencies too.
No, yeah, understood.
Now you could, once you get to if you're in an emergency situation, now here's where, if you don't know anything about electrical, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble with this. If you get into an emergency situation and you don't have enough to power your whole house, you need to be able to pull some of this apart off and rewire to your only running certain things, which you can do that with extension cords. If you got enough power to run a refrigerator, then you just pull this thing out the wall,
just plug
an extension cord to your refrigerator, and run your refrigerator individually.
That's pretty cool.
But if you want to run more things, if you say you're kind of in the middle of it and you're generating enough power to run some lights and a heater and a refrigerator and an air conditioner, but you can't run your whole house, then you're probably going to be looking at having to rewire or having another system that you can move it over to that has been rewired to be able to handle that.
You could just make yourself a pigtail with a couple outlets on it.
So, this is where it comes interesting to me, because I know I don't have to pay an electrician to come in and do it. I can do it. But some people might have to.
Well, you could just make yourself an outlet strip or like a pigtail with some heavy wire and have like 4 outlets, run your refrigerator and a couple of lights or whatever.
You could put yourself a little heavy-duty cord together with some extra outlets on it, plug this thing in, boom, you're good to go. But you know how many people are scared to even touch a wire? To me, it's as simple as can be. There's not much to it, but some people are just completely scared of it. You put 3 wires out there, and it confuses the hell out of them because they don't understand how it works, and it's dangerous. They don't know. They don't care. They've never touched it, so it's intimidating to them.
And your refrigerator, you don't need to run it 24 hours a day if you're in an emergency.
No.
You could run it part of the day.
No, and it's not going to run all day anyway.
Well, that's true.
Going to come
right.
up,
but you could turn. I guess you could adjust the temperature.
Yeah, you be careful about how you could, like your freezer. If you got a freezer, when you keep it closed most of the time. So if you plugged into that for a few hours a day, you can keep your freezer going for a long time. Now, refrigerator would be a little bit different. You might have to plug it in and take it off several times during the day, and be very careful about when you do get into it. But in an emergency situation, who's not going to be careful about that anyway?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder how many watts a typical refrigerator does.
Then again, there's so many of them.
The newer ones, I think they're pretty low.
Yeah. I don't have all that stuff figured out, and I'm not even going to because there's too many variations. But for somebody can sit down and figure that out fairly easily if they want.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be drying the clothes.
Look at the refrigerator and see what the tag says.
So, your wife's hair dryer is probably 1,000 watts.
You're like your clothes dryer.
Oh yeah, easily. But
microwaves are like 1,100 watts.
Yeah.
So you want to put out some wattage, that's for sure. But I like that idea of using that.
Yeah, because it's back to that. You can take the budget you've got and adjust to it and do step by step and still take your benefit right away.
Now, the solar panels put out how many volts?
You can have 12, you can have 24, you can have whatever.
Yeah, so you get 24 volts. Well, yeah, because you can just tie them together the same way with the batteries. Okay.
Right.
So you come out with 24 volts. So you want to have 24 volts coming out of that. And
I think this starts at about 20-something volts and up to like 48 or something like that. So you have to have at least 24 volts.
Yeah.
Which is not a problem. Probably better to go 24 anyway.
See, I wanted to buy one of those kits where you build your own. Suppose you see those things on the internet where you build your own solar panels with stuff you buy at Lowe's.
I was looking, and there's panels out there that have already come in a kit. You don't even have to put them together, and they're, like again in the $200 range, $240, $200, $240, somewhere $250. That come with an inverter, come with a light, a 12-volt light, and the panel. And you can't hardly build a decent one for that price.
Yeah.
With it too. So it might be better, and that's what I'm thinking about doing. Just going buying one and starting out there, and then starting to grab some batteries here and there and start putting it together. Go get my generator, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with the generator and work with some of the methane gas stuff and some of the different things together. But I'm thinking, for a decent panel, you can't hardly make one for the price you're going to buy that kit for. And there's several people that make the kits. We've talked about, Northern has one for $250 or so.
Harbor Freight, I think it was.
Yeah, it was Harbor Freight. Yeah, it was Harbor Freight. I really think that might be the best way to go for, unless you got, because glass is the better thing to use for your panel, because it doesn't yellow out, but a lot of the plastics will yellow out after a little while.
Well, I saw one guy. He had made his own solar panels, but he was using the way instead of using glass, he was putting them in a frame.
Epoxy.
He was putting that epoxy.
Yeah, you can do that. That, of course, that all yellows out too. But I don't know if any of it yellows out enough to really make any difference in the efficiency.
Yeah.
But that epoxy is expensive.
Yeah, the glass wouldn't be that bad.
Glass is expensive when you go to glass is strong enough to withstand hail.
Yeah, you got to have something it's got to withstand the weather, that's for sure.
And there's some of these panels that are made like out of a little bit of a dimpled glass, which reflect the sunlight into it better than a flat glass, which reflects some of it off. And then you start looking at thick enough glass that's dimpled properly to do the job like the ones that you buy. Like I said, it may not be worth it to make one.
Yeah, my solar power battery charger system has the dimple on the solar panel. It's the dimpled stuff to where it reflects more light into it.
Yeah. Now I can make a solar panel cheaper, but if I'm looking at long-term life of one and efficiency, it might just be just as well to go buy them and put panels up that way. than do the work yourself.
I imagine the angle you mounted at's critical.
It
optimize
is.
It right.
Well, the ones I've been seeing, where they put them on, they'll have 3 panels on a pole, and those poles you can adjust the angles, and you can also adjust the direction. In other words, it allows you to, for the change of the season, you can adjust the elevation, and then of course you only have to do that once, and then throughout the day you can actually turn it. And there was one I saw where a guy had these, what do you call them? There were sensors where it would actually rotate the
little motor with a sensor on it.
A motor with a photoconductive cell or whatever.
Yeah.
And he said, and at the end of the day, it would automatically turn them all the way back to the other direction, and start off, would be started off for the next day, and then as the day went, it would track the sun.
And that would be the optimal way to do it if you got the funds to do that.
And if the power needed to move it is less than what you gain by moving it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You got all these little things are things, people you have to sit down and figure out and study up on it and get enough knowledge so they understand the ins and outs and goods and bads of each different system. Mine, when I've planned for the shop out back, my roof is angled 2 different directions. Most of it's angled one direction, and then a little bit's angled another direction, a little hangover, the front. And I'm just one side is going to be angled to one direction, another side is going to be angled another direction with a couple of panels lifted up for the afternoon sun. And, the whole system will be pulling all day long. But some of them won't be getting as much sun as the others because they're angled a little bit differently, and they won't be getting full sunlight. But I'm not going to put all the stuff to rotate them this way and that way. I want something that sits there, it's done, it's over with. I don't have to run back and forth in and out, and move things around. And I may check up on the directional part that you're talking about, the automatic one, because maybe I could use fewer panels that way if the price is right. Maybe I can use half the amount of panels and get the same power by following the sun. But if the price isn't right, I don't want to do it. Plus, I kind of like to keep it simple. The less things that can break, the better.
Yeah, I was watching a YouTube video. It was a black guy out in was in New Mexico? Yeah, New Mexico. And he just, bought a little bit of land out there, and he was totally off the grid, and
I would love to be totally off the grid. God, I'd be happy with that.
And that's all he had was like 3 panels, and he had that, it tracked the sun. He said that way he got optimum sunlight all day. And
my problem is I have so many big trees in the area. We got huge trees in the area.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, and anybody have anything they want to get? We've been in for an hour and a half already. So, first, I want to remind everybody, I put a post up on the moonshine thing. I talked about it a little bit. It'll give you some direction, maybe some insights into what I've found out. But there's a lot of stuff out there, so I didn't put a bunch of information on how to do the different things. I didn't put the recipes down, which I may come back and add some recipes in there later. But it's a place to go to get you started. There's one video there that I think is a nice little video. It gets you a lot of information. It'll get you thinking about it, and if you want to follow through, it'll help you find, send you in the right direction. And that's at bestbugoutbagcontent.com. There's a lot more information out there about bug out bags, about survival foods, survival this, survival that. Go by, check it out. But bestbugoutbagcontent.com. And Mike, what's the news site?
LiveFreeNews.com is a site for this show, and my site's BilliardsBiohacker.com.
All right, and it broke up a little bit, but that's LiveFreeNews.com. Now, does anybody have anything they want to add in before we call it a night? Doesn't sound like it.
Hey, I'm gonna be putting up an article about stress, managing your stress. I thought it was kind of a good topic for the election for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And dealing with stress in a survival situation is going to be very, very important. And there's a lot of stress going on in the Northeast right now, I'm sure. And I bet we get a shitload of new preppers out there from the Northeast.
I wouldn't bet.
At least those that didn't vote for Obama, because we know they don't got enough brains to probably be preppers anyway. So, anyway, that's the end of the night, unless somebody's got something else. One?
Well, I did hear on that video I was talking to you earlier about strategic relocation.
Mm-hmm.
He was saying that about 10% of the population was thinking about potentially prepping, but then only 1 out of 10 people would actually do some sort of prepping, you know.
Well, because we're a lazy society.
Yeah. And as the economy got better, the prepping would drop off. But right now it's a boom industry right now.
Well, right now, as the economy gets better, you should be doing more because you have more money to spend on it. But I understand there's also aspects of when the economy's bad, you want it so if it gets bad enough, you got food to help you get through some bad times. So
yeah, the bad economy makes more people think about it. Now, the people that aren't even awake to what's happening with the New World Order will prep when the economy's bad or when it's looking like it's getting worse. But then when the economy comes back, they kind of slack off from it, and they're the fair weather preppers, I guess you call them.
Yeah.
But the people that are when the economy's booming, the people that are awake to the New World Order, that would be it's better for them because the money's better and
yeah,
they can.
Well, I'm still amazed at how many people think preppers are idiots and you're stupid for doing it. There's still a bunch of them out there. With all the evidence, with everything that's happened, the Northeast, Katrina, earthquakes, hurricanes, tidal waves that's happened in the last few years, and you're still an idiot for prepping.
Well,
no, we're not idiots.
Not idiots, but just being ultra
even those
paranoid.
Doomsday Prepper shows, those people are kind of...
Yeah, well, look what Doomsday Prepper does. They try to make the people look stupid.
That's what I'm saying. They make them look... Yeah. They make them look paranoid.
Yeah. And a lot of these people take extreme versions of it, and that's what they want for the show. But most preppers aren't extreme. They take this stuff, they think it out. Well, what can fit into cover as many things as I can with the least amount of money and the fastest way to put it together, and then they start expanding on that as they go. But these people got to pick out the weirdest ones, and I guess it wouldn't make a good show if they didn't have weirdos on there, or at least they think so. Yeah, but not all of them are weird. Some of them are pretty decent, but they go out of their way to find the nutcases, I think, to try to make it an interesting show. But at least it's out there making people think about it a little bit. Maybe it's helpful. I don't know. I kind of enjoy the show myself, but I do like to make fun of these people when they get a little bit stupid about it.
Yeah.
I guess that's part of the show, All right, so this is Politics and Preppers. Saturday night, TalkShoe.com, 10 o'clock Central Time, folks, 10 o'clock Central. That's not 10 anything else, just Central. Figure it out for wherever you live and stop by and join us, except for if you voted for Obama or you wanted to vote for Obama or you think it was okay to vote for Obama. That means you're a liberal and we got no time for you. Go away. Go find another country. Go script somebody else's life, not mine.
Hey, liberals are allowed
the rest of the people that got brains. Can't help myself. That's right. Please don't get prepped. We don't need you after things go bad. We need you to go away. Go to Russia or something, I don't know, China. You'd really love it in China if you like Obama. So, anyway, that's the end of the show tonight. Stop by again next Saturday night. We'll talk to y'all later. Skippy, if you want to hang around for a minute, we can talk. I'm going to have to take a quick break right after I end this show, and then I'll be right back. I got to go get something to drink and take a short break. Come on, show. Stop. Don't do this to me.
It's gonna hang on again like it did.
I guess maybe we just keep talking. I guess. I know we started the show. It said we did, and I heard it. But it doesn't want to stop.
It did that before.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm not taking my break right away, huh?
Must be Obama supporter.
That one episode, it was like 30 minutes or 20 minutes of blank air at the end or something.
Yeah, I remember that. I tried several times to shut it down. I went back several times after, 10, 15 minutes and tried to shut it down, and it wouldn't. This may be another one.
Hey, I got to get back to work, man. I'll catch up with you guys later.
Yeah, quit goofing off. Get back to work.
Okay, later.
Bye. See you later. Oh, well, Al,
yeah.
Any of this stuff that you want to follow up on, I want to keep going on it. So if you find any information, bring it to the show or send it in my direction, and look into it.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm going to start looking in. I'm kind of. I want to dig more into. They keep talking about solar cells, new technology coming out, and that's kind of what I've been. I'd hate to go buy a bunch of panels then.
Well, I saw one that was a roll-up one.
Yeah.
Got a lot of sticky stuff on the back, so if you didn't use that sticky stuff and find another way to anchor it down, you could take it with you if you bugged out.
Right.
And I don't know what the price of that one was, though. I don't remember if you said, or I know I didn't go look.
Well, the ones I saw, it was in the $300 range.
Yeah, which is still, not bad.
No.
If we're looking at the same one, because that was a pretty long roll.
Yeah, see, the problem if you're going to bug out somewhere, you really don't need a whole.
You're not going to need a lot of power.
No, you're not going to need a lot of power.
That one strip may be all you need.
Yeah, what would you be running?
If you have a location already set up, you may already have solar out there, but this way you could take it with you and add two, or at least not have to invest in two systems and just roll it up, throw it in your truck, and haul ass. But if you're walking, I don't think you want to add that to your backpack, because that looks like that thing would probably be pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But, you could make yourself take a couple of bicycle wheels, make yourself a little trailer that you could kind of tie to your backpack or tie on your hip, to your belt or something, and pull a little trailer with you.
Yeah.
And be able to carry a little bit more weight that way. Plus, it would save on your back. And Jim was working on that because of his health issues. He was looking at doing something like that. And I gave him a bicycle, but I don't know how far he's gotten along with it. Now I kind of wish I kept the bicycle because I could have used the wheels for the wind, the vertical wind generator thing.
Or the rim, yeah.
Yeah, but, bicycles are a dime a dozen. Even you go buy new rims, they don't cost that much. So
no.
I didn't lose too much on that. And this stupid thing's doing that kind of stuff. Well, was there anything else in here that particularly hit your fancy?
No, just I'm definitely looking into alternative energy stuff over the next.
It's interesting stuff. I like it.
Yeah. I like the business of tying, plugging it into your existing system and then just using less electricity.
Yeah. And I like that too, because I knew about that thing before, but I couldn't remember what it was. I also remembered that it was very expensive. Well, the price has dropped by like half.
Yeah.
So it's now in that range where many people could put it into their budget.
Right.
You're still talking about, some money there, but it's something where you could invest in that with that and start getting something back out right away.
Right.
And you can start adding and multiplying and changing things around to fit whatever circumstance you're in. But I like that too. And I'm going to get one.
Right.
But I think I'm going to get my generator first and the permanent magnet alternator. I think those are the two things I'm going to go for first. And I'm going to do a little bit more research on these Stirling engines, try to find some. And I'm going to try to find out about that one I was talking about that had the higher torque to it. I don't really feel like building one, but I know somebody I might be able to talk into building one. So I got lots of stuff to do here, and some of it's going to be on the forefront, and some of it's going to be waiting a little while.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I think I'm going to cut out here.
All right, go ahead. I guess I'm just going to have to let this thing run, and hopefully it'll let down sooner or later.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
You haven't gone yet.
I got to find the app. All right, bye.
Bye. Take it easy.